In this second lecture of week 6 about testing, we want to have a brief look at this so-called mock environment, which is what we're going to use in the subsequent lectures on testing. So yeah, note that, let's say we have some on-chain code. If we actually want to run it, of course, one way would be to build a transaction of like where we spend from this contract, or mint something from this policy ID or so, and then to submit it, for example, on testnet. But yeah, you already, I guess, experienced during the last lectures and the homework that, well, it's using this PyCardano setup, it is somewhat straightforward. It also always takes a bit of time, and we have to do a bunch of steps like setting up the wallets and then make sure they have, you know, the right amount of test ADA or other native tokens that we need for the test. Then we actually need to construct the transaction. It might be that it needs a certain kind of datum to really have this scenario that we want to test. We want to submit, we need to wait until it's available. Yeah, and so on. So it's not what we want to do when we want to run, say, 100 tests and do it also in an automated way, which is the preferable way. But actually, we can also see that, this is all somewhat unnecessary, right? Because the only way we do all this is so that in the end, the validator gets a script context that has a certain state, like certain values for the inputs, datum, and so on. So we could save all this if we could just basically build this script context ourselves and set all the values the way we want them. Yeah, because in the end it's nothing else but a Python object. So we can actually build this and then pass it to the validator and do all our testing without ever interacting with the blockchain at all. And yeah, I mean, this lecture is not so much about really understanding how this mock context is implemented, but more about using it. But maybe we can still briefly scroll a bit through this these definitions here. So, okay, this is the mock chain context. It's just another implementation of a chain context. So it has all these fields that are also present in the actual context that we can derive from the chains, so some kind of parameters, etc., that we can just set to those default ones anyways. And yeah, we have a network, epoch, and so on. That those also are not used, I guess, in most of the smart contracts, so we don't necessarily need to care to set them properly. So let's just go a bit through here. So of course, something that chain context needs to support is that we can sort of change the UTXOs that are present. So in this one, we basically add the UTXO and we have some other functions for removing them. We have basically here a submit function. So yeah, this is maybe interesting because actually, so let's say we build a transaction in the end. Then we would submit it to this mock context. Then the transaction would actually be evaluated. So it really goes through the scripts that are present in the transaction and evaluates them using the OpShin evaluator. And yeah, so we can really see that whether the transaction goes through or fails depending on what is the state of the context, basically, like if the right inputs and datums are present, like exactly those things that we do want to test. And yeah, so this is more or less for the mock chain context. Then we also have mock users, so those are basically representing some mock wallets that we set up so that we don't have to fund some actual wallets on the testnet. Yeah, so there's this fund function, so we can just give them some value. and this will basically make sure that the chain context has this certain UTXO that belongs to this user so that we can spend it in the transaction we're building. Okay, so this is just kind of a brief overview for this context. And now we want to look at how to use it, which is the thing we maybe actually care about the most for this purpose. So this is just a simple test, like sending around some ADA to see how it can be done on this mock chain context. So what we do here, let's maybe start with this test simple spend. So we create this mock context just like this, set up the object, and then we set up the users based on this context. So let's see how it's done. So it's just a list of users here. It's like 3 users, and then we fund each with some amount of ADA, and you know that's it for the users. And then we send around some ADA. So we have this send value function that sends from the 0th user 1 ADA to the user 1. And the way it's done is just we actually used the PyCardano transaction builder. So it's nice that this can also work with our mock context, because it's actually just a class that inherits from this chain context. So we use the transaction builder just like we would normally do. We add some input address, which is the one from this first user here. We add an output with the value that we want to send, and we just sign it and submit as we're used to. And yeah, so this basically sends some value around, this sends the value back. And then here's another test, so just to see that actually, for example, in this case, we will basically try to send 100 ADA from the user 0 to user 1, just like this, but when we fund the users, we only give them 10 ADA, so we expect this to fail. And this is exactly what this test is kind of making sure that the thing actually fails, because, okay, we want this exception to occur, which will be the kind of UTXO selection exception, because the transaction builder cannot find a UTXO with enough ADA. So this will become false, and then we will pass this assertion because the transaction will fail, hopefully. So let's run this, and so I'm already in our poetry environment here, and I'm in the week 6 directory. So yeah, in case you've done kind of tests with Python before, you know this PyTest thing. So the way it works is simply that in this week 6 directory here we have a subdirectory called tests, and this is the file we just looked at. So if we now run PyTest tests with this test mock, basically the PyTest will simply run all the functions that start with test in this file and give us an overview of kind of which ones are passing, in the sense that no assertions fail and no exceptions are occurring. So we see here we collected 2 items, which are exactly those 2 tests, and both of them are passing. Whereas, for example, if we, let's say, reduce the amount of ADA here, so we only try to send 1 ADA, which will be actually possible because they have 10 to begin with. Then if you run it again, the transaction, yes, is passing, and then this assertion that says it must fail is triggered. Okay, so this is how we run tests. Let's put it back and see that it passes. Okay, so here we just saw some simple interactions with this mock context, and we see it's already saved us a lot of time. And in the next lectures, we will see how to build slightly more complex tests, and yeah, how to really use this to test our smart contracts, because now we've only been building non-smart contract transactions basically. So with that, I will see you in the next lecture.